She tried to attack me, pulled out like a thick, long bread knife, and she stabbed me in my back. I was rushed to the hospital, and I just remember crying to my mum and just saying, "Mummy, why is all of this happening to me?" Well, I remember hearing these words about this man called Jesus, how he's a father to the fatherless. And I just remember sitting there saying to myself, who is Jesus? Like, who is this God? I was born in a place in Birmingham called West Brom, and I was born into a single parent household. And it was really difficult as a young child, just not having a connection with my dad. And so I just remember from very, very early just being a young person that really struggled with that feeling of rejection, even at the age of like 3 as a toddler. I remember when my mum and my stepdad split up, that was a really, really difficult time for me because he was my hero. And for me, it was the hardest thing because not only had I been rejected by my biological dad, I was now rejected by my stepdad, the only other man that, was a father figure to me. From the age of 14, I became really promiscuous. I started giving myself to anybody that would have me because it was that value or feeling valued for that moment. And so in secondary school, it was really, really bad. I had like a really bad reputation. A lot of girls didn't like me. I started to have anxiety. I was having panic attacks on a regular basis. When I was 16, I was walking home from school with my best friend, and for no reason, I just said to my best friend, like, let's swap coats. So I gave her my coat and I put on her denim jacket. And about 30 minutes later, we walked past another girl's house that I thought was my friend. And she came out of her house and she started arguing with me. I don't even remember what it was about. And she tried to attack me, pulled out a bread knife, like a thick, long bread knife, and she stabbed me in my back. And she stabbed me just behind my heart. And I was rushed to the hospital at that moment, and the doctor actually said to me, "You're very lucky, Chantelle. The coat that you was wearing saved your life." He said that because of the thickness of the denim jacket, the knife couldn't go in deep enough to penetrate my heart. And I remember hearing those words and just thinking to myself, like, that was my chance to die. Like, why am I still here? My life's a mess. Not only do people hate me and are bullying me, like, people are trying to take my life. So what is the point? And I couldn't see a future for myself. I didn't have any hope. And I just remember crying to my mum and just saying, "Mummy, why is all of this happening to me?" It was beyond her control. She didn't know how to help or how to protect me. There'd still always be something in me just to talk to God. And there'd be times where I used to just lie in bed and cry and talk to him. Just after my 17th birthday, I met a boy. I got pregnant. And I then was in a really, really abusive relationship with my daughter's dad, where on a regular basis, he would be beating me up. And then when my daughter was about 2, he went to prison. And so at the age of 19, I became a lap dancer. I would sit in my car before I would go into a lap dancing club just for confidence and drink and neck a whole bottle of wine, walk around, swanning around like I'm the most confident being in the room. And then I'd go home and I'd cry myself to sleep. And I remember just putting the TV on. Well, I remember hearing these words about this man called Jesus and how he's a father to the fatherless. And I just remember sitting there saying to myself, who is Jesus? Like, who is this God? Who is this father that is a father to the fatherless? Every single weekend I would go to the lap dancing club and I'd go home and I'd listen to these words and listen to the worship. And I literally would just cry my eyes out because something was happening inside. And so that was going on for about a year. But during that time, I got back in contact with my dad And my dad was currently living in New York. I was happy to see him, but that thing that was missing, that void that I had, I thought that at that moment it would have been filled because I'm now in relationship with my dad again. But it wasn't, and I was still feeling empty and I was still longing for something. And I remember there was this one day now that I was in a strip club, in the lap dancing club, and for some reason, I felt like, I don't know what it is, but I need to go to church in the morning. And I remember going up to the manager and just saying to him, I need to leave early today. I have to go to church in the morning. I knew that my life was so sinful. I knew that my life was so dark. I knew that there was so much bad things that I'd engaged in and bad things that I'd done. I was sat in the service and I was sat at the back, and I remember there was a guest preacher and they were speaking and they were saying things again, words that I'd heard, through the radio. They were saying things like, God, he's a father to the fatherless. He has a plan for each and every one of us. He wants to save us. He wants to deliver us. He wants to change our lives. And I remember just sitting in the back of the church, crying again. At the end, someone said, if there's anyone in this room that wants to accept Jesus as their Lord and Saviour, put your hand up in the air and we'll pray for you. And I remember just looking to the right and my hand was in the air. And they said, we see your hand. Come forward, we're going to pray with you. When I think of it now, it was like that moment in the Bible where it says that when a shepherd, if he had 100 sheep that he loves dearly and one goes missing, he will leave the 99 and he will go for that one sheep. I know at that moment I was that lost sheep. I was that one that Jesus went to seek. And I remember just at that moment, as I prayed, I just started weeping. It wasn't like a normal cry, but I was sobbing in a way that I couldn't even express. It was like something was releasing. That heaviness that I'd had on my shoulders, I physically felt the heaviness. I felt something just go off my shoulders. All of that worthlessness and brokenness and hating myself and not loving who I am and the rejection and the lap dancing and the being stabbed and the loneliness and the fear. At that moment, Christ took it off my shoulders because he said that his yoke and his burden is easy and light. And he took off that heaviness that I'd experienced for 23 years of my life. God took it at that moment. Even during this time when obviously I thought that I would never be with anyone, no one would ever want me. I met my husband and I've been married for 7, nearly 8 years now. My daughter's 21. I've got a 4-year-old. God opened doors where I started my own business, is working with young people, going into schools, working with young people in children's homes. And I'm able to use my story. I'm able to show them that there's a God and look what he's done for me. And just sitting in front of these young people that are broken and that are telling me, they don't want to live and their lives are a mess. God has given me purpose because I understand now that everything that I've went through, that can be used because it's never going to be wasted. He will use that for others and show them that there is hope and be that person for them that I really wish I had when I was their age, someone that had experienced some horrible things in life and said, you can come through it. And God has opened that door and given me that opportunity. From the moment I stepped into that church that day, my life just completely changed. And, I never ever went back to the strip club. I never did any of that again. And I've just got a beautiful life now. And I'm so grateful that God kept me. I'm so grateful that I'm here for such a time as this. I'm grateful that he's changed my life. I'm grateful that he's given me hope. I'm grateful that I have him. The most important thing for me is that I've got God, because even if everything around me fell apart, the one that is able to keep me stable is the one that loves me dearly, and he's the one that I will never, ever, ever, ever would want to ever leave, and I never want him to leave me, and I'm just really, really happy. My name is Chantelle Leonie Hales, and I testify to the goodness of God in my life.